You're standing on the lot. The sticker says $70,000 for a pickup truck. Not a luxury car, not a boat, a truck, the thing your father used to haul firewood and gravel and a couch or two. My dad bought a brand new pickup once for less than $3,000, and it hauled everything our family owned for the better part of 20 years. So when I went looking at the 10 newest truck brands on the market today, I expected sticker shock. What I did not expect was this. 8 of those 10 will quietly drain your savings, and only 2 are still priced for a regular working person. That is not an accident. Somebody decided the pickup truck, the most honest vehicle ever built in this country, should cost about as much as a down payment on a house. And most folks are paying it without ever asking how we got here. Stay with me, because at the end, I'm going to tell you about a brand new truck announced in the spring of 2025, priced under $30,000, that almost nobody in your neighborhood has heard about yet. It exists. I found it buried under a mountain of shiny advertising for trucks that cost 3 times as much, and you do not need to be rich or young or a car expert to take advantage of what I learned. You just need to know what I know now, which I did not know 6 months ago. I remember standing in a dealership outside of Springfield, Missouri, maybe 15 years back, looking at a new half-ton and thinking the price was steep at $28,000. The salesman laughed and said, "That's nothing. They'll be double that soon." I thought he was just working me. He wasn't. He was telling me the truth, and I was too proud to believe it. So I decided to do something about it. I spent months going brand by brand, price by price, digging through everything I could find on the 10 newest names in trucks. And the deeper I went, the angrier I got. Because most of these companies never intended to build a truck a farmer or plumber or retired fellow on a fixed income could actually afford. Let me start with the ones that broke my heart the most, the electric trucks. There is a name you have probably seen on television by now, Rivian, handsome truck. Comes out of a company founded in 2009 by a young engineer named R.J. Scaringe. For years they promised the everyday adventurer an electric pickup. When it finally arrived, the R1T started around $70,000, and by the time you added the battery range most people actually need, you were staring at $80,000 or more. I sat in one. It's a marvel. It's also the price of the first house I ever bought, and that house had a yard. Now here is where the tension starts, because I want you to understand what you are quietly losing. When a truck costs $70,000 instead of $30,000, and you finance it over 7 years, which is what dealers now push, 7 full years, you are not paying $40,000 extra. With interest, you are handing over closer to $55,000 of your life's earnings for the exact same job, moving you and your stuff from one place to another. That is money that used to stay in your pocket. That is a retirement account. That is your grandkids' college fund. Gone, and most people never even feel it leave, because it disappears one monthly payment at a time. But Rivian is not even the worst of it, not by a long shot. Then there's the Tesla Cybertruck. You have seen it, the strange angular thing that looks like it was drawn by a child with a ruler. When Elon Musk first showed it off in November of 2019, he promised a base price near $40,000. People cheered. I'll admit, even I thought, well, maybe. Then reality arrived. By the time it actually reached buyers, the versions people could get were running $80,000, $90,000, even past $100,000. That $40,000 promise? It quietly vanished, and the cheap version kept getting pushed further and further down the road until most folks just stopped waiting. Here's the thing that got under my skin. That is a pattern. Announce a low price to get everybody excited and talking. Build the expensive version first. Sell it to the wealthy. Tell everybody else the affordable one is coming someday. I have now watched that same trick run across half a dozen of these new brands, and once you see it, you cannot unsee it. Therefore, I kept digging, because I wanted to know who profits from that pattern and why it works so well. And what I found is that this isn't really about electric versus gas. It's about something much older and much more deliberate. Consider the GMC Hummer EV. I know, that's not a brand new brand, it's a revived one. But the way they brought it back tells you everything. When it launched around 2021 and 2022, the first edition rolled out at over $110,000. A truck, more than $100,000. The average brand new car in this whole country, by 2024, was pushing near $50,000. And here's a truck asking more than double that. Now let me tell you what I learned about why. Back in the 1950s and 60s, the American pickup was built to be a tool. Plain steel, vinyl seat, crank windows, a bed you could throw cinder blocks into without a second thought. Ford, Chevrolet, Dodge, they sold these things to farmers and tradesmen at prices those men could pay in cash or close to it. The truck was the definition of practical. Somewhere in the 1990s, that changed on purpose. The companies figured out something that made them very rich. They discovered that a truck loaded with leather seats, chrome, and a fancy name badge could be sold for 2 and 3 times the price, and the profit on that extra stuff was enormous. The steel and the engine cost about the same, but the heated massaging seats and the 20-inch wheels, that's where the money is. So they slowly, year by year, stopped building the plain, cheap, honest truck and started building rolling living rooms aimed at people who wanted to look successful. And you and I, the people who just needed to haul a load, got left behind. We got told the plain truck no longer exists, that everybody wants the luxury version now. That is not what people wanted. That is what they were sold, because that is what made the fattest profit. But it gets worse, because at least Rivian and Tesla and the Hummer actually deliver a truck. Some of these new brands took people's money and delivered nothing at all. Let me tell you about the ghosts. There was a company called Nikola, founded in 2014, named with a straight face after Nikola Tesla, the same inventor Elon Musk borrowed from. Nikola promised revolutionary electric and hydrogen trucks. Big fanfare, big stock price. Turned out a famous promotional video of their truck rolling down a road was really just the truck coasting downhill with no working engine at all. The founder, Trevor Milton, was later convicted of fraud in 2022. The company eventually collapsed into bankruptcy. People who believed in it, investors, would-be buyers, working folks who thought they were getting in early on something honest, got burned. Then there was Lordstown Motors out of Ohio that promised a work truck called the Endurance. They were going to bring truck building jobs back to a town that badly needed them. The truck barely made it to production before the whole thing crumbled into bankruptcy by 2023. A handful of trucks, sky-high promises, and then nothing. And Canoe and Fisker, whose founder promised an electric pickup called the Alaska, a beautiful rendering, a big splash before that company too, ran out of money and folded. One brand after another, each one selling the same dream, each one either priced into the stratosphere or gone before the first customer ever turned a key. By the time I counted them up, of the 10 newest truck names I investigated, 4 were essentially dead or dying, 3 were priced so high that only a wealthy hobbyist could touch them, and only a small handful were left standing with a price a working person could actually consider. 10 brands, and you could count the affordable, real ones on one hand with fingers left over. So here's the question that kept me up at night, and I want you to sit with it too. If the plain, affordable truck was so popular for 80 years, if generations of Americans built this country out of the bed of a cheap pickup, then why is it so hard to find one now? Who decided we didn't deserve it anymore? The answer is the same answer behind almost everything I investigate on this channel. Somebody makes more money when the cheap version disappears. It really is that simple, and it really is that cynical. Think about it from their side of the table. If they sell you a $30,000 truck, they make a modest profit, and you drive it for 20 years like my dad did, and you don't come back for a long, long time. But if they sell you a $70,000 truck on a 7-year loan, they make an enormous profit up front, the bank makes a fortune on your interest, and here's the real trick. The truck is now so full of computers and screens and complicated parts that when something breaks, you can't fix it in your own driveway anymore. You have to go back to them. Over and over. That last part is the one that truly made me sit down, because I grew up watching men fix their own trucks. My uncle could pull an engine apart on a Saturday and have it running by Sunday supper. He didn't have a computer science degree. He had a socket set and a manual. Today's trucks are sealed up tight, run by software, and locked down so that the simplest repair sends you back to the dealer with your wallet open. That is not progress. That is a leash. And they sold us the leash by calling it a feature. And that is money that used to stay in your pocket, money that, if you knew how to read the whole picture, you could redirect entirely. I've spent a long time now putting that bigger picture together, and the clearest version of it lives in my books, Reset, Deep Leverage, and The Full Stack. Each one digs into a different layer of how ordinary people get quietly separated from their money, and more importantly, what you can do about it. They're not car books. They're books about seeing the system clearly enough to stop feeding it. You can find them linked in the description below, and I think if this conversation is already making sense to you, those pages will feel like the rest of the same conversation. Now, back to what I was telling you about the pattern behind all of this, because it goes deeper than trucks. Now, I promised you I would not just complain, and I won't, because right about here is where I imagine some of you thinking, that's fine for you, but I don't have $70,000, I don't have $30,000, I'm on a fixed income, and I just need something that runs. This next part is for you especially. Lean in, because everything I'm about to tell you, you can act on this week with the money and the tools you already have. Here is the first thing I did, and it cost me nothing but an afternoon. I stopped shopping for a new truck and started studying which old trucks were built to last, because a truck you can maintain yourself is worth more than a truck you make payments on. The most reliable, simple, repairable pickups ever made are still out there on the used market, and the mechanics I talked to all pointed to the same era trucks built from roughly the mid-1990s through the mid-2000s before everything went digital. A body-on-frame pickup from that stretch, well cared for, can be bought today for a fraction of a new one, and the parts are everywhere. And they are cheap. I found a fellow 2 counties over selling a plain work truck from 2002, one owner, service records in a shoebox, for less than $8,000. $8,000 against $70. And when I had a trusted mechanic look it over for about $120, money well spent, he told me the engine in that truck was one of the most dependable ever bolted together, the kind that regularly crosses 300,000 miles if you just change the oil. Now here is the free part, the part that put money straight back in my pocket. I learned to do the small maintenance myself, the same way our fathers did. An oil change on a truck like that costs about $35 in parts and 45 minutes of your Saturday versus $120 at a shop. Changing your own air filter, $10 in 10 minutes versus $50 at the dealer. Learning to rotate your own tires. These are not lost arts because they're hard. They're lost arts because somebody profited from convincing you that you couldn't do them. I promise you, if I can learn it past 60, you can too. And every single one of those small jobs is spelled out step by step for free in the owner's manual and in 1,000 honest videos made by regular folks who just want to help. And there is one more thing you can do this very week that costs nothing at all. Call your insurance company and ask what you're paying to insure a vehicle you may not even need to replace. When I priced insurance on a modern $70,000 truck versus my older, simpler one, the difference was several $100s a year, every year forever. The fancy truck doesn't just cost more to buy, it costs more to insure, more to register, more to repair, more of everything for as long as you own it. The plain truck saves you money 5 different ways at once, quietly, year after year. So that is the door out, and it's wide open, and it was open the whole time. But I told you at the start there was something better. I told you about a brand new truck, announced in 2025, priced under $30,000. And I want to give you that now because it is the thing that made me believe the plain, honest, affordable truck might actually be coming back not from the giants who buried it, but from somebody who remembered what it was for. In the spring of 2025, a new company came out of near total secrecy. They had been working quietly for years, and unlike almost everyone else, they did not lead with luxury. They led with the price. The truck is small. It is deliberately plain. It has crank windows, actual hand crank windows in an age when everybody else brags about touchscreens. No giant center display, steel where others put chrome. and the target starting price they put forward was in the mid-20,000s before incentives, which would make it one of the most affordable new trucks sold in this country in years. When I read the details, I felt something I had not felt in this whole investigation. Recognition. Because that is my dad's truck. That is my uncle's truck. That is the honest tool, stripped of everything you don't need, priced for the person who actually works. The company's whole idea, stated plainly in their launch materials in April of 2025, was that a truck should be simple, repairable, and cheap enough that a regular family could own one without a 7-year loan hanging over their heads. They even designed it so the owner can add features over time, on their own terms, instead of paying for a rolling living room they never wanted. Want to keep it bare and cheap forever? You can. That is not a small thing. That is a company betting that there are still millions of us who never wanted the leather and the chrome and the debt in the first place. We were never asked. We were just told what we would buy. And here, finally, somebody asked. Now, I want to be straight with you because I built this whole channel on being straight with you. A brand new company always carries risk. I just walked you through the ghosts, Nikola, Lordstown, Fisker, canoe companies that made big promises and vanished. So I am not telling you to run out and hand anybody a deposit on faith. I am telling you that the idea itself, the plain, sub-$30,000, fix-it-yourself truck, is not dead, and it is not impossible, and the proof is that somebody with real backing is building it right now, out in the open, in defiance of everything the big makers spent 30 years teaching us to accept. And that is the whole lesson, isn't it? They told us the cheap truck was gone because nobody wanted it. That was a lie. The cheap truck was gone because it made them the least money. The moment somebody decided to serve us instead of milk us, there it was again, crank windows and all. So let me pull the two threads together, because they are really one thread. If you need a truck today, you do not have to play their game. You can buy a simple, reliable used pickup from that golden era before everything went digital, get it checked for the price of a nice dinner, learn to do the small work yourself the way our fathers did, and save yourself. I ran the real numbers, somewhere between $40,000 and $60,000 over the life of the vehicle compared to financing a new luxury truck. That is not a typo, and it is not a sales pitch. That is the actual cost of believing what they told you. And if you want a brand new one, keep your eye on the honest little companies bringing the plain truck back, and let the folks with money spare go first and shake out the bugs, and then you step in when it's proven. Patience is a working man's advantage. It always has been. I went into this expecting to be impressed by 10 shiny new brands. I came out realizing that most of them were never built for me, or for you. They were built for the person who wants to look wealthy in a parking lot, financed by the person who just wants to get to work. 8 of them will take everything you've got. 2 of them, the plain used workhorse and the honest new upstart, will let you keep it. The truck was never supposed to be a status symbol. It was supposed to be freedom. The freedom to haul your own load, fix your own machine, and owe nothing to nobody. Somewhere along the way, they took that from us and sold it back at triple the price, and we let them, because we didn't know there was another way. Now you do. If you're the kind of person who has always suspected that the old, cheap way got buried on purpose, not because it stopped working, but because somebody stopped profiting from it, then you already understand what this channel is really about. We're not car people here. We're people who refuse to be told what we can and cannot afford by the very folks selling it to us. So here's what I want to know, and I'm asking you directly because I read these and I answer them. Which one of those 10 new brands did you see advertised and think, honestly, who is that for? Was it the $100,000 Hummer, the disappearing $40,000 Cybertruck promise, or one of the ghost companies that took the money and ran? Tell me in the comments below, and tell me what part of the country you're watching from, because I've got a hunch that folks in farm country and folks in the city are getting squeezed in 2 very different ways, and I want to see if I'm right. And if any part of this put a fire in you, if you're tired of being sold the expensive version of everything your parents got plain and cheap and honest, then come stand with the rest of us who are digging this buried. Knowledge back up, one forgotten thing at a time. Subscribe, because next I'm taking apart the used car certified sticker that lets dealers charge you thousands extra for a promise that, once I read the fine print, means almost nothing at all. You are going to want to hear what that little word certified is really costing you before you ever set foot on another lot. The plain truck isn't gone. It was just hidden behind a very expensive curtain. Now you know where to look, and more importantly, you know they were counting on you never finding out. I named just the 2 trucks a working person can still afford, but inside my membership, the Old Ways Society, I pick up right where I left off, both trucks named and compared, so you know which fits you. In there you ask me your question, and a real person me answers. You won't be doing this alone. Old Ways folks like you are already inside. Just point your phone at the code. Cancel anytime.